7 years. At least 5 screenwriters, 3 directors, 1 two-time Oscar winner who trained for a role he still hasn't played. And after all of that, Marvel Studios' Blade has produced exactly 0 seconds of usable footage. In July of 2026, the man who built the entire MCU sat down on a podcast and said something we've genuinely never heard Kevin Feige say about one of his own projects. He called himself a gigantic loser and failure.
And like a gigantic loser and failure that we didn't get off the ground with Mahershala.
Not about a movie that flopped, about a movie that never got made at all. So what actually happened? Why did Marvel spend 7 years insisting Blade was still coming, only to quietly let it die the same summer they were expanding Avengers, Doomsday, unveiling a new Ghost Rider, and confirming Black Panther 3? The answer isn't really about vampires. It's about what Marvel has become terrified of admitting out loud. Rewind to San Diego Comic-Con 2019. Marvel had just closed out Avengers, Endgame, the biggest movie in the company's history, and Feige needed his next mic drop moment. He got one. Mahershala Ali, fresh off 2 Oscars, walked onto the Hall H stage in a black leather hat, and the crowd came completely unglued. A modern day Walker, played by one of the most respected actors alive. On paper, it was the safest bet Marvel had made in years. Except Marvel didn't actually have a script locked, or a finished plan. Getting the announcement was the win. Making the movie became tomorrow's problem, and tomorrow kept arriving without it. Bassam Tarek signed on to direct, with Watchmen writer Stacey Osei-Kuffour handling the script, and a shoot date was set in Atlanta. Then, 2 months before cameras were supposed to roll, Tariq walked away. Marvel called it a scheduling shift. Insiders described it as something closer to creative differences. Either way, production shut down and the search started over from nothing. Yann Demange stepped in next. And here's where it gets stranger, because behind the scenes, the script itself kept changing shape entirely. Writers came and went. Michael Starberry, Beau DeMayo, True Detective creator Nick Pizzolatto, Logan writer Michael Green, and eventually Marvel veteran Eric Pearson. At least 5 different takes on the same character. One insider later told Variety the story had, at one point, shifted into an ensemble led by women, built around life lessons rather than vampire hunting. Whatever that version was, it apparently wasn't the one either, because roughly a year and a half later, Demange was gone too. Layer the COVID shutdown and the 2023 writers and actors strikes on top of all of that, and you start to see the real shape of the problem. This wasn't one bad decision. It was 5 straight years of Marvel not being able to agree on what Blade even was. That's the part most coverage skips past, because underneath every delay was a genuine identity crisis. Feige has since explained the studio never wanted Ali standing around in a plain leather coat killing vampires with nothing else going on. It needed to feel essential. If threads like this are why you keep coming back, liking and subscribing genuinely helps more of these hidden connections reach people who'd want to see them. And the next one is where this really gets interesting. Here's the timing that matters. While Blade sat in endless rewrites, Bob Iger was telling investors Marvel needed to cap its output at no more than 3 movies a year. Around that same stretch, Feige reportedly set a new internal bar for the studio, rejecting anything that didn't feel genuinely exceptional. Every version of Blade that came through the door got measured against that standard, and every single one fell short of it. Quietly, in the fall of 2024, Marvel pulled Blade off its release calendar entirely. No new date replaced it. No director was hired to replace Demange. The project simply stopped being talked about. For close to 2 years, Marvel never technically called it canceled. They just stopped saying anything at all. That silence broke in an unexpected way not with a Marvel press release, but with an Instagram post. Justin Klaus Harder, the designer behind the original Blade logo revealed back in 2019, posted a farewell to the project days before Marvel's 2026 Comic-Con panel, writing simply that, "We hardly knew ye." Marvel never confirmed or denied it. They didn't have to. Days later, Feige did it for them, telling Happy Sad Confused host Josh Horowitz exactly how he felt about the whole thing. Then, Mahershala Ali finally spoke. In a GQ interview released days after Feige's comments, Ali made it clear this was never his call. He said plainly, if they wanted to do it, we would have done it. He'd been under contract the entire time, waiting on a studio worth billions of dollars to pull the trigger. Instead, he trained for the role, built a version of the character in his head, and watched the movie never happen. He's since used that same physical preparation for an unrelated project with his old Blade director, Bassam Tariq, which is either an incredible coincidence or the most Marvel outcome imaginable. Blade wasn't even Marvel's only quiet casualty that stretch. Disney Plus canceled Wonder Man the same week, a show it had already renewed for a second season, starring an actor coming off an Emmy nomination. Two projects killed within days of each other, both involving people who'd already put in the work. It isn't a coincidence. It's a studio actively pruning anything that doesn't clear an extremely high bar, even after years and real money went into it. Here's the detail almost nobody connects, though. The original Blade trilogy writer, David Goyer, went on record calling the whole saga baffling, insisting Blade was never supposed to be complicated. The character was built in 1973 by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan for the pages of Tomb of Dracula, a half-vampire hunting his own kind. Wesley Snipes proved the concept works with almost no world-building required. Goyer's read is that Marvel overthought a story that was always meant to be simple, scary, and R-rated in spirit. And that might be the real answer to the title's question. Marvel didn't give up on Blade because the character stopped working. They gave up because their own new philosophy, fewer bets, only the very best clearing the bar, everything tied to Doomsday and Secret Wars, had no room left for a smaller, standalone, R-rated vampire hunter who doesn't need to save the multiverse to matter. Blade wasn't killed by bad luck. He was killed by Marvel finally holding itself to a standard it couldn't meet, then choosing 2 years of silence over admitting that out loud. Whether the Daywalker resurfaces through animation, a future reboot, or another Snipe-style cameo is genuinely unknown right now. But the real story behind why Blade disappeared says more about where Marvel is heading than any trailer they've dropped this year.